They called him the baddest man on the planet. And for one blazing, terrifying decade, that wasn't hyperbole. It was a weather report. Mike Tyson made $400 million inside the ropes, and he lost every single cent outside of them. In the mansions, in the courtrooms, in the casinos, in the entourages, and in the contracts written by men who loved his money more than they ever loved him. But here's the thing that will haunt you long after this story ends. When they asked Tyson if he regretted it, he said no. Vegas didn't steal from Mike Tyson. Vegas just held the room while everyone else did. The kid from Brownsville. To understand how a man loses $400 million, you have to understand how he got it. And to understand how he got it, you have to go back to a place where $400 million was not even a language anyone spoke. Brownsville, Brooklyn, 1969. One of the most violent, desperate neighborhoods in the entire United States. The kind of place where boys learn to fight before they learn to read, because fighting keeps you alive, and reading does not. Mike Gerard Tyson was born on June 30th, 1966, to Lorna Tyson, a woman doing everything she could to hold a family together in a place that was designed to pull families apart. His father was gone before Mike could remember him. The streets filled that vacancy the way streets always do, with older boys, bad decisions, and the fast education that comes from having nothing to lose. By the time Tyson was 10 years old, he had been arrested dozens of times. Purse snatching, robbery, the kind of crimes that 10-year-old boys commit when 10-year-old boys are running feral through a city that is not watching them. By 12, he was in the Spofford Juvenile Detention Center. By 13, he was at the Tyrone School for Boys in Johnstown, New York, a reform school upstate where troubled kids got sent when the system ran out of other ideas. That's where a boxing coach named Bobby Stewart noticed something in the angry teenager that nobody else had bothered to look for: power, instinct, a frightening, almost unnatural ability to hurt people with his hands. Stewart made a phone call that changed everything. He called a man named Cus D'Amato. Constantine D'Amato was 72 years old, a former boxing manager and trainer who had turned Floyd Patterson into a heavyweight champion in the 1950s. He lived in a Victorian mansion in Catskill, New York, ran a gym above the police station, and had spent years looking for something he described simply as the right kind of fighter. When D'Amato watched Tyson spar for the first time, he told people in the room that the boy would be the youngest heavyweight champion in history. Nobody laughed. D'Amato wasn't a man people laughed at. Cus took Tyson in. Literally. The boy moved into D'Amato's house. Cus became his legal guardian after Tyson's mother died in 1982. He taught Mike the peekaboo style, the shoulder roll, the art of slipping punches while closing distance, of making yourself small while hitting like a wrecking ball. He taught him about fear, about using it as fuel, instead of letting it become paralysis. He told Tyson that a hero and a coward feel exactly the same fear. The hero just decides to do something with it. More than boxing, Cus D'Amato taught Tyson who he was supposed to be. A warrior, a destroyer, the baddest man on the planet. He was 13 years old and someone had finally given him an identity. He held onto it with both hands and never let go. The money starts. Cus D'Amato died in November 1985. Tyson was 19 years old. And the man who had spent 6 years carefully building a warrior, brick by brick, fear by fear, punch by punch, was gone before he could see what that warrior would become, before he could see what would be done to him. Tyson turned professional that same year. He was already fighting with a ferocity that made experienced trainers step back from the ropes and go quiet. Not nervous quiet, witnessing quiet. The kind of silence that falls over a room when something is happening that people know they'll describe for the rest of their lives. His first professional fight lasted 1 round and 47 seconds. The next one lasted 39 seconds. He was knocking grown men unconscious the way other people knock over glasses of water, casually, completely, without apparent effort or emotion, as if the violence was simply a chore he was finishing before moving on to the next one. By November 1986, Mike Tyson was the WBC heavyweight champion of the world. 20 years old, the youngest heavyweight champion in history, exactly as Cuss had promised from that first sparring session in the gym above the police station in Catskill. The old man had called it years before it happened. He just didn't live long enough to collect on the prophecy. The money started then. Television contracts, promotional deals, endorsements. Numbers so large they had no translation for a boy who had grown up in Brownsville, stealing to eat, sleeping in buildings where the heat did not always work, learning the value of a dollar by understanding that dollars were something other people had. Bill Caton, his manager at the time, understood what was coming. He tried to build guardrails, a structured financial plan, investments, trusts. The architecture of long-term security around a young man who had never once in his life been allowed to think long-term. But guardrails only work if everyone around the driver wants the car to stay on the road. Then came Don King. Don King is a story all by himself. And someday, he will get the full telling he deserves. A Cleveland numbers runner. A man who had served 4 years in an Ohio prison for stomping another man to death over a $600 debt in 1966, the same year Mike Tyson was born. King had reinvented himself as a boxing promoter in the 1970s, orbiting Muhammad Ali and George Foreman, building a promotional empire on a philosophy so simple it was almost elegant. Find the biggest talent in the room, attach yourself to it, make sure every contract worth signing runs through you first. By 1988, King had maneuvered himself into Tyson's world and pushed Caton out of it. He replaced structure with freedom. He replaced discipline with access. And he gave Tyson exactly what a 22-year-old heavyweight champion of the world, with no financial education and no father figure and no custodiado, standing in the doorway, telling him to slow down, actually wanted. Everything. No limits. No lectures. No guardrails. The machine was built. The machine was magnificent. And the machine was pointed directly at a cliff, the baddest man on the planet. Let us talk about the money, not in abstract terms, in real terms. Because $400 million is a number so large, it stops feeling real, and you need it to feel real to understand what happened to it. Between 1987 and 2002, Mike Tyson earned an estimated $400 million from boxing alone. Not endorsements, not appearances, not side businesses, just fighting. His fight against Michael Spinks in 1988 paid him $22 million for 91 seconds of work. The first Holyfield fight in 1996 earned him $30 million. The rematch, the one with the ear, the one that defined everything, paid him $30 million more. The Lennox Lewis fight in 2002, the last big payday, put another $25 million in his account. $400 million. Coming in fast every year in enormous, spectacular chunks. And Las Vegas was the cathedral where all of it happened. The MGM Grand, the Hilton, Caesar's Palace. Every major Tyson fight was a Vegas fight. The city built shrines to his arrivals. Hotels sold out months in advance. Tickets were scalped for thousands of dollars. The Nevada Gaming Commission tracked increased betting volume on fight weekends that rivaled Super Bowl numbers. When Mike Tyson came to Las Vegas, the city did not just welcome him, it genuflected. And Tyson spent accordingly. He bought a mansion in Farmington, Connecticut for $4.4 million. He bought a mansion in Ohio. He bought a mansion in Las Vegas itself. He bought cars by the dozen, Bentleys and Ferraris, and Rolls-Royces that sat in garages and depreciated in the desert heat while he bought more cars. He spent $2 million on a bathtub. He kept white Bengal tigers as pets, paying $3,000 a month per animal for care. He maintained a full-time entourage of dozens of people, all of them on salary, all of them flying first class, all of them eating, drinking, and living on Mike Tyson's tab. And he gave money away. Enormous, staggering, almost incomprehensible amounts. To friends who needed rent money, to strangers who told him sad stories, to family members who showed up, to anyone who asked, and some who did not bother asking. Tyson has said in interviews that he simply could not stop giving money away because money had never been real to him. It was a concept, not a resource. It came in through one door and walked out through every other door in the building simultaneously. Nobody was teaching him otherwise. Nobody with any authority in his life had any incentive to slow the bleeding. Because when you are feeding off a man who generates $40 million a year, the last thing you want is for him to start paying attention to the receipts. The walls start closing. The first crack appeared in 1988, and her name was Robin Givens. Tyson married the actress in February of that year, 7 months after they met. 7 months. Less time than it takes most people to decide on a car. The marriage was a disaster before the ink on the license was dry. Givens accused Tyson of physical abuse. Tyson's camp fired back with something that looked, at least from the outside, like a coordinated financial extraction. Givens and her mother, they alleged, were draining accounts, collecting jewelry, moving money, building a legal case for a divorce settlement while still showing up to public events on his arm. The divorce arrived in 1989. It cost Tyson an estimated $10 million and something that couldn't be itemized on any balance sheet. The last structural remnant of the financial order Bill Caton had tried to build around him. Gone. Just like that. Then the real accounting began. In 2004, Tyson sued Don King for $100 million. The allegation was simple and savage. That King had stolen approximately $112 million from him across the length of their promotional relationship, buried it in contract language, hidden it in deal structures that paid Tyson generously on the surface while quietly siphoning fortunes underneath. The lawsuit settled out of court for $14 million. $14 million returned from 112 allegedly taken. Read that again. That's not a settlement. That's a confession written in numbers. That's a power dynamic so lopsided it barely qualifies as a negotiation. But King wasn't the whole story. He was just the most visible chapter of it. There were other managers, other advisors with their hands in various pockets, lawyers who billed thousands of dollars an hour for years, generating invoices that seemed to multiply faster than Tyson could earn. Accountants who somehow never found the right moment to sit a man earning $40 million a year down and explain to him that $40 million a year was not, in fact, infinite. A whole ecosystem of professionals whose livelihoods depended entirely on the continuation of Mike Tyson's earning power and who had every incentive to keep him fighting and spending and trusting, and absolutely none to help him stop. Meanwhile, Tyson kept fighting. He kept winning, mostly. He kept filling arenas. He kept making the money that kept everyone fed. And then, Buster Douglas walked into the Tokyo Dome on February 11th, 1990, and the whole beautiful, rotten structure shook to its foundation. The fall James Buster Douglas was a 42-1 underdog the night he fought Mike Tyson. Not 8-1, not 15-1, 42-1. The betting lines were almost insultingly lopsided. Sportsbooks in Vegas barely bothered setting a serious line because nobody in the building believed Douglas had any more chance of winning than a man walking into a hurricane with an umbrella. Tyson knocked Douglas down in the 8th round. Douglas got up. And then, in the 10th round, James Buster Douglas hit Mike Tyson with an uppercut that lifted the baddest man on the planet off his feet and sat him down on the canvas of the Tokyo Dome and changed history. Tyson could not get up in time. The count reached 10. The referee waved it off. Mike Tyson had lost. The unthinkable, the impossible. The event that the entire architecture of the late 1980s had been designed to prevent had happened on a Tuesday night in Japan in front of the whole world. Don King tried to get the result overturned. He claimed Tyson's trainer had stopped the fight in round 8, and the fight should have been over then. Nobody bought it. The result stood. Douglas was champion. The loss itself cost Tyson relatively little financially. What it cost him was the mythology, the idea of invincibility that had been his most valuable asset, the thing that made men pay $30 million to watch him fight, the thing that had been built brick by brick in a gym above a police station in Catskill, New York, by an old man who saw something in an angry 13-year-old that nobody else could see. That mythology cracked in Tokyo, and it never fully sealed back together. Then came the rape conviction. In July 1991, Tyson was accused of raping Desiree Washington in an Indianapolis hotel room. He was convicted in February 1992 and sentenced to 6 years in prison. He served 3 years before being released on parole in March 1995. 3 years in prison, no fights, no income. But the entourage did not stop eating. The mortgages did not pause. The cars did not stop depreciating. The world kept billing Mike Tyson while Mike Tyson sat in a cell in Indiana and had no ability to pay any of it. By the time he walked out of prison, the financial hemorrhage had been running unchecked for 3 years. The comeback and the bite. He came back to Las Vegas. Of course he did. Vegas is where men go to resurrect themselves, to remind the world of who they were, to cash the check that their reputation writes before their body can cover it. Tyson's comeback fight against Peter McNeely in August 1995 drew 1.5 million pay-per-view buys. The public wanted the myth back. They wanted to believe the baddest man on the planet had just been on temporary leave and was now returning to his rightful throne. Tyson won easily. Won the next fight. Won the fight after that. And then, Evander Holyfield agreed to fight him. Holyfield was supposed to be a tune-up, a fighter past his prime, too small for a true heavyweight, a man who had no business sharing a ring with the resurrected monster. That's what the world believed. That's what the Vegas oddsmakers believed, installing Tyson as a heavy favorite. Holyfield knocked him out in the 11th round on November 9th, 1996, at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. The world was stunned. The boxing world was not. Inside the sport, people who watched Tyson train had been watching the decline for years. The footwork was slower. The combinations were shorter. The hunger that D'Amato had forged into a weapon had been ground down by years of chaos, by prison, by the weight of living the kind of life that Mike Tyson had been living. But Tyson wasn't done. He demanded a rematch. He got it on June 28, 1997, at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. $37 million for Tyson, the biggest payday of his career to that point. And then, in the 3rd round, Mike Tyson bit off a piece of Evander Holyfield's ear. Not a nibble, not a clip, a chunk, a piece of cartilage that landed on the canvas while Holyfield spun away screaming. The referee stopped the fight, and the entire MGM Grand erupted into chaos. Fights broke out in the crowd, bottles were thrown, security was overwhelmed, 60,000 people trying to process what they had just witnessed with their own eyes. The Nevada State Athletic Commission fined Tyson $3 million and suspended his boxing license. The suspension lasted more than a year. $37 million earned. $3 million fined immediately. License suspended. The legal fees that followed. The brand damage that no dollar amount could calculate. Las Vegas had hosted the moment Mike Tyson became a punchline. Not a scary punchline. A sad one. The accounting, let's do the math that nobody wanted to do while the money was still flowing. $400 million in. What was left when it was over? The homes consumed an estimated $14 million in purchases alone, not counting maintenance, staff, utilities, and the endless carrying costs of properties that did not appreciate because nobody was maintaining them. The cars, by various estimates, somewhere between $4 and $6 million over the years, a fleet bought impulsively and abandoned with equal casualness. The Bengal tigers cost him more than $500,000 before he eventually surrendered them to a sanctuary. The jewelry, the parties, the flights, the hotels. The entourage that at its peak numbered over 50 people, all of them drawing salary, all of them counting on a man who did not know how to say no because nobody had ever taught him that no was a complete sentence. Don King, by Tyson's own accounting, took more than $100 million through promotional contracts that Tyson signed without fully understanding and could not escape without losing more than it cost to stay trapped. The divorce from Robin Givens. The legal settlements. The back taxes that accumulated during the prison years when income had stopped, but obligations had not. In August 2003, Mike Tyson filed for bankruptcy. He listed debts of $23 million. His assets at the time of filing were valued at approximately $400,000. Not $400 million, $400,000, less than he earned for some individual sparring sessions during the peak years. $23 million in debt, $400,000 in assets. That is not a financial decline. That is an extinction event. But here is what the bankruptcy filing does not capture. The thing that gets lost when you reduce a human life to a balance sheet. Mike Tyson did not lose $400 million to bad luck or market downturns or forces beyond his control. He lost it to a system of relationships specifically designed to extract maximum value from him while he was generating it. Managers who took their percentage off the top. Promoters who structured deals that paid Tyson generously up front and themselves generously forever. Lawyers who billed thousands of dollars an hour to help him navigate problems that other lawyers had created. Wives who knew exactly what they were marrying and exactly when to leave. Vegas did not take Mike Tyson's money. Vegas just held the room, set the stage, sold the tickets, poured the drinks, and watched while everyone Tyson trusted walked out with their pockets full. The city was just doing what cities do, what Las Vegas has always done. The house always wins, but the house is not always who you think it is. The reckoning. Here's what Mike Tyson said about the money. Not what lawyers said, not what biographers said, what Tyson himself said in interviews and on stages and in quiet moments when the mythology dropped away and the man underneath was visible. He said he deserved it. Not the theft, not the exploitation, but the poverty that followed the excess. He said it with a clarity that stopped interviewers cold, the kind of clarity that only comes after a man has sat completely alone with the truth about himself and decided to stop arguing with it. Tyson has said that the money was never real to him because nobody taught him it was real, that he grew up with nothing, and when the money came, it felt like a dream, and he treated it like a dream, spent it like a dream, surrounded himself with people who reinforced the dream because they were all living off the dream themselves. He has said that he was a child in a man's body with a man's bank account and a man's earning power and absolutely no framework for understanding what any of it meant or where any of it was going. He has also said something more unsettling, that the chaos, the excess, the spending, the self-destruction. It felt like home. That Brownsville had taught him a specific emotional vocabulary, and unlimited wealth translated into that vocabulary as danger, as something that couldn't last, as something you should enjoy recklessly because it would be taken eventually. So he participated in his own undoing, not consciously, not maliciously, but with the deep, ingrained certainty of a man who had learned at age 7 that good things don't stay, and you might as well burn them yourself before someone else does. Cus D'Amato had tried to replace that vocabulary, had spent years teaching Tyson a different way of understanding himself and the world. But D'Amato died when Tyson was 19, before the money came, before the fame, before the machine was built. He died before he could finish the work. And that's the tragedy that lives underneath all the numbers, and the fights, odds, and the biting, and the bankruptcy. Not that Mike Tyson lost $400 million, but that the man who might have helped him keep it died too soon. And every man who stepped into that vacancy had his own pocket to fill first. Las Vegas understood this instinctively. The city was built by men exactly like the ones surrounding Tyson. Men who understood that the real money isn't in the gambling. It's in controlling access to the gambler. The legend that remains. But Mike Tyson didn't disappear. That's the part of the story that surprises people who expect the arc to end in tragedy. Bankruptcy filed in 2003. And then what? Then nothing. For a while. Some fights. Some spectacle. The Lennox Lewis fight in 2002, the last serious championship bout, a fight Tyson lost by knockout in the 8th round in Memphis, the final chapter of the fighting career written in the same language as the first, violence and consequence, and a man getting hit harder than he could absorb. He retired in 2005 after losing to a journeyman named Kevin McBride in Washington, D.C. Not even a Vegas fight. Not even a fight that anyone will remember. Just a man stopping in the middle of a round and telling his corner he didn't want to do it anymore. 57 professional fights, 50 wins, 44 by knockout, 6 losses. A record that, when you strip away everything else, when you remove all the noise, all the chaos, and all the mythology, is simply extraordinary. Then, Tyson started becoming something he never expected. Interesting, not as a fighter, but as a human. In 2012, he did a one-man Broadway show called Undisputed Truth, directed by Spike Lee. He stood alone on a stage for 2 hours and told his own story with a self-awareness, a humor, and a rawness that critics did not expect and audiences could not look away from. He talked about the money. He talked about D'Amato. He talked about the ear. He talked about prison. He made people laugh at things that were not funny and feel things about a man they thought they already understood. The show toured. It became an HBO special. It became something that shifted public perception of Tyson from a cautionary tale to a complicated truth. Then came the podcast, Hotboxing with Mike Tyson, launched in 2019. Tyson sat across from athletes, fighters, celebrities, philosophers, anyone willing to have a real conversation, speaking with a directness and a vulnerability that the sport of boxing had spent decades training out of him. Millions of listeners. A genuine cultural presence built from nothing. From $0 and a microphone and the willingness to be honest. And then, in November 2024, at 58 years old, Mike Tyson fought Jake Paul in Arlington, Texas. Not a Vegas fight this time. Texas. 80,000 people in AT&T Stadium. 108 million Netflix viewers worldwide. The largest audience for a boxing match in the history of the sport. Tyson lost by unanimous decision. He was 58 years old, he fought for 8 rounds, and he was standing at the end. 58 years old, $400 million earned and gone. And still standing. Las Vegas put his name on a theater show, sold tickets to his comeback fights, booked him for appearances and signings, and the endless celebrity machinery that the city runs on. And Tyson showed up every time, because Vegas and Tyson have always understood each other at a fundamental level. Both of them built on excess. Both of them defined by spectacle. Both of them capable of taking everything you have and leaving you grateful for the experience. $400 million, gone before he was 40 years old. Taken by promoters, and ex-wives and lawyers, and yes men, and his own magnificent, catastrophic inability to believe that good things were allowed to last. Vegas held the room. Vegas cashed the tickets. Vegas put his face on marquees and sold his mythology to anyone who could afford a seat. And Mike Tyson, the kid from Brownsville who Cus D'Amato shaped into the most feared man on the planet, looked back at all of it and said he had no regrets. Maybe that's the most Vegas thing he ever did. Walking away from the table broke, smiling, and already thinking about the next fight. Which part of Tyson's story hit you the hardest? Tell me in the comments. And if you love discovering the real people behind the legend, the ones who built empires and lost them and kept swinging anyway, hit subscribe, because every legend has a story. Vegas never forgets.